Tēnā rā e tātou tokotoru, te tokotoru koutou, e mana ki rawa mai rā i a tātou mātou ki te ao ki te pō. Whakaaro nui anō ai rā i a tātou mātou i ngā wā katoa, i ngā huatanga katoa. Whai atu nā noa ai rā i a kōkoe, kotahi ki roto ki ngā mea katoa. Kua rā pēwhia. Me te āhua tonu ki ngā tū āhuatanga e kōrero tia ke anana. Whai tonu atu anō ai, whai tonu ake atu anō ai rā i a kōkoe, ki roto ki ngā mea katoa. Hai aha hai painga, hai oranga tonutanga ki roto ki aua mea kia tātou. Kia tātou mātou i roto i ngā tū āhuatanga katoa me ngā whakauauatanga, me ngā mō rika-rikatanga kātoa. Kai a tātou kai tēnei wā, kai tēnei wā, kai tēnei wā, kai tēnei wā. No reira rana e pā, e tō mātai matua nui te rangi te iehua. Whai ake ati tonu anō ai rā i a kōkoe, ki o te tonu anō rā i a kōkoe i ngā mea katoa nunui kē rā kia tēnā, kia tēnā, kia tēnā, kia tēnā, kia tēnā. Rā i te whakapunu. Rā i te whakawhirinaki rā, i a tātou tēnā o tātou. Ki te tū āhua rā. Nā karekau tētahi, mai roto tonu iho rā i ngā iwi. Ai ngā hapu, i ngā hapu uretārewa. Puta tonu atu ki roto ki ngā uri katoa, i ngā aitanga, i ngā whānau. Karekau hoki. E puta ke tonu ake atu ana. Te mea kotahi. Kia kotahi. Ki waho tonu ake atu i te whakawākia. E tō matamatua nui te rangi e. Tō kōrero whakamitunga, kōrero whakawā atu i ngā tū āhuatanga katoa, ki runga kia mātau kia tēnā, kia tēnā, kia tēnā. Ki ngā wā, ki te whakatitukitanga mai, o te māwhirahia, ai te kōhuruhia, ai te kōhurehia. Mā whirawhira me te kōhurea o ngā tū āhuatanga katoa. Tako iho mai rā ki roto ki tō kupu e pā. E te io uno. Ia hana i matamata tia mai rā. I takoto iho mai rā e kōkoe ki ai. Ai pā, ai tō mata matua nui te rangi e. Me taku whakau. Anō rā hoki ki roto tonu anō kia koe. Ki roto ki tēnei wā tonu nei e nāna tonu katoa nō. O ngā tū āhuatanga kōrero tia iho nā i a kōkoe ki taua kupu. Hai aha, hai kōrero nunui ke ake atu māhaku ki roto ki tēnei pōtonu. Ki tēnei wā o te pō, hai kōrero ke ake atu anō māhaku. Kia koe tonu e pā, ai tō matamatua nui te rangi. Mea hauna tonu. E inoi nā i a kōkoe, tō rongo mai, tō whakaaro nui, tō kahamana ki tonu rā i a tātou mātou ki roto ki ngā tū āhuatanga. Kia haere tonu ai rā, haere tonu ai rā, haere tonu ai rā. Puta atu. Puta ki ngā haora katoa kai mua te nui hona rā i a tātou mātou. Kai tēnei wā, i te ingoa te iehua. Mene, ka piti hona ka tātai hono, ko rātau mā tērā, rātau te mate o rātau. Kai tua te ārai, tonu o te mate, koe riro noa atu, anana, haere, haere, haere katoa i nā whakauti atu, ki te wāhi i tika nei kia koutou, kia tēnā, kia tēnā, kia tēnā, haere. Haere ka apiti hona ka tātai hono, tātou mātone anu tērā tātou, ka hurike mai nei ki roto ki ngā kōrero ki tēnei mātone o te pō. Akua rā reiti ahau, ahakua rā, me taku nui, whai haere i te mea, ki roto tēnei nā tonu nei, whai haere i te āhuatanga ki ngā mea katoa hei whai atu mā haku ki roto tēnei rā. Ahui anu, te mea nui tonu kēpea, kua tai ake maira, kua tai ake maira, kua tai ake maira, ko ia nana anō huki, ai kōrero tonu māku ki tēnei wā, ki tēnei wā tonu nei āhau, mihi whai tonu atu, mihi whai tonu atu, mihi whai tonu atu, me te whakatau ki, e kōtou rā nau mai haere, nau mai haere, nau mai haere, whakaeke mai, whakauru mai, piki, kake, hara mai, tēnā rā tātou, kai te mihi atu, mauri ora, kahuri, kia ora mai rā e tatauma, yes, back again with plenty more kōrero to come, and yeah, lots of mihi, lots of acknowledgements for those we're getting lots of attention towards our settlements, and sounds that the long wait is over, and we are moving into a very positive space. Although myself and my boards, we're always being very, very particular, very, very specific, very, very strategic, very, very tactical in the way that we examine and assess and look at the various matters and samples of whatever the kaupapa are, and whatever the makeup are of the various take that we have to make decisions around. We're the ones, all the toughest decisions come to us. That's my runanga, our incorporation, should I say, and the national office, of course, the top board of national office. And I'm forever depending on them, the top board of national office. So they know me very, very well, and they know how I like to work with them, and they're great on the hustle, on the bustle. They're great. That's why I like to use them a bit. But my favourites are where all the toughest decisions we have to make are made. It's those sorts of boardrooms that I speak about when I talk about the tough decisions to make of our boards. And so moving forward into the update for settlements this week, we're expecting some challenges. Like I said last week, we've started our talks. And actually there might not be any challenges. There might be more surprises than challenges, but because we're so used to the challenges, but we sense the opposition, or shall I don't know whether to call them opposition right at this present time, right at this present moment, or how we should view them. But in the space, we seem to be coming onto an area and a new space and a new time of maturity. Whakaunga ngā huatanga me te wairua. Me te whakaaro tonu. Ia tēnā, ia tēnā, ia tēnā. So, yeah, lots of talking still to do. I don't want anyone to get too excited yet, but the thing to be excited about is that we will go to settlement. Talks have begun and we're moving forward very nicely. 3 talks, we're just waiting for we've been through 2 lots. I'm just waiting for the next one, which should be the key one. With the Crown negotiator and settlement manager, negotiator of the whole of the process of settlement. And so just awaiting him. And we should have those details ironed out. I need to also get onto those members of my runanga board, Te Runanga Nui o Tahu, those who will join me in those final talks. Well, the final talks. They're the major ones where usually I can make lots of decisions on my own, but there are some where I like to share the decision making and just make them more not lucrative, but I forget what the word is for it, but they with a wider consensus, they can have more bearing and they can have more influence and be given a fair bit more mana in other directions rather than just my own. Sometimes it's good, some of the decisions I need to make on my own, because I am otherwise in a very isolated position. You know, I'm the one at the top where it's really cold and it's all on my own, really. I'm really all on my own, but there's a lot of decisions that I, where I need to make at the moment, and I'm just talking about my own position on the boards where it's really a sole position, or one where I'm isolated or out on my own sort of thing. And so really most of the decisions I make are really on my own. But there are ones very, very vital to make with the board or with some of the board members, or where I'm in talks where I will involve a number of the board members, and those ones that these talks will revolve around will be Melissa and a couple of the others. So I need to get onto them and start to work with them around the talks, knowing full well what they will be about. So we will brief on those and then go into those talks with the Crown on those particular, on the details that they bring up that we need to talk around over that time, which should be in this week. I don't think I know some of the work that he's working with at the moment, which is some of our correspondence and a lot of the matters we've already worked with to date, but he's just making sure that he gets himself up to date with where we're at and with the other representatives that we've had talks around. And so we're nearing that time. A very good time, and one I believe we have hints at some very strong cases for unification between Teina, Uri Teina, Mata Muri Teina, and the Tuakana. The one of preeminence, prominence and primacy in the region is always a big thing, in fact, with any Teina, right through the entirety of our iwi, the entire of our iwi, if we can have unification around that basis, around the Tuakana Teina elements and all the componentries therein, that's a big thing. And if we can do that, if we can achieve that, and there are great hints like if I go back towards the kōrero around the the Wairarapa Tararua Settlement Bill, and a lot of the decisions made around that, which look like a huge turnaround through the kahungunu uri a Waitaha Rangi. 16 lines from Te TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai and Te Ira Manawa Piko. And from them, from whom came 8 lines later, Tamateari Kinui, and then we get down to eventually down to Kahunu after Tamatea Urahaya, and Mane Iwi Te Rerewa. And so moving into all of that kōrero, I bring you into, up to date, where we are coming into those times where we can start to conclude a lot of this kōrero around exactly what we're here for. And what we're here for is to settle and move things forward in terms of, with our iwi, with regards Wairarapa Tararua or Wairarapa ki Tararua o te Mataiwa Maui, e tatama, and looking forward to all of the other many various different lands of Tahumaakaakanuimatua from throughout the motu. We're going to enjoy that part, but coming up to the settlement is the important one right now. That is the one that has been fundamentally occupying our minds and our hearts for the time being. Quite arduous at times, yes, but not something that we cannot relax around. We know that the kahungunu have come through and we've just started on the road to ours. So we are unsure as to what to expect yet, and there could be some challenges. Mind you, there's almost always challenges, be they little or large challenges, challenges nonetheless. So we shall be facing those exactly how we always do. Just like us, we'd like to take the bull by the horns, face those challenges and do away with them, so to speak. Sort them, so to speak. Any of those are pretty easily sorted, pretty and very, very, mind you, easy to say, easily said too, easily said. But at the moment, for the moment though, that's what I'm saying, is that to the large degree, a lot of those decision-making processes, the tūturu ones and the actual board processes, mixed in with the current of the day, shall be the all-important to us in the days to come, where we, if need be, we have to make some very, very difficult decisions along the way. We will do those, make sure of those, and within the boards, those 3 boards in particular, we shall be making sure, and with my people who will come on board with the Crown Talks, we shall be making sure throughout those talks, that all those decisions, we go back to our board, make sure that we've made our decisions accordingly, how we should. We've looked at all the different areas that we should, etc., etc., etc. Like, I'll give you an example. Some of the things, this is how difficult our decision-making procedures can be. Let's not forget that we're tūturu Tahumaakaakanuimatua, and that is all the time. All the time, we're tūturu Tahumaakaakanuimatua. And don't forget, recently we moved into the area of becoming an iwi that is God-first. So we operate on a God-first centrality of, the whole operation in the spiritual, cultural and super tribal aspects of our operations and the way that we are organized is fully based and revolved around those three areas. And like, for instance, one of the first major steps that we take, in the major procedures around our processes is firstly, the Lord's will in whatever, we're trying to decide. We consider that. That's first. Secondly, ngā huatanga ki a rātau mā, ki ngā tūpuna mātua, he hake tā rātau ki roto i roto i te whakaaro tonu ki te kaupapa, ki te take. Hei whakaaro ake ati tonu iho mamata. One of those integral areas around kaupapa regards the thinking of our tūpuna mātua, those that have already gone by, and the various different aspects that they would consider and how they would consider around the particular issue. And whatever topic, whatever kaupapa it is, whatever the take is, whatever the issue that we're talking around at that time, and that we need to make decisions on. After that is Tahumaakaakanuimatua tūturu. Hake rawara, tērā, ki o toki te huatanga ki te titiro ki tau hataki. Hey. And what's Tahumaakaakanuimatua tūturu's view on this matter? Wina hoki, very, very tough, tough, And so that's why in these boards I have the best of my decision makers. Obviously at national office level, I've got my hustle and bustle guys and girls in there. In the incorporation, you'll find they're mostly governance, management, business, finance. Yeah, business, finance, financial, etc., etc., etc. All those sorts of people. They're a business central HQ of Tahumaakaakanuimatua Tūtahu Trust. And then, of course, there's the runanga, the top of my decision makers and board people and governors of the entireties of my governance entities. The governance entities of Tūtahu Trust, Tahu Investments Limited. Yeah, so that's just to give you an idea of some of the ways, some of the things we have to consider and some of the toughest decisions we have brought before us. As a runanga, I'm talking, as a runanga. Within the incorporation, they would take on a slightly different focus, a business finance focus, a business focus, a business central focus, HQ, and also, let's not forget, for the runanga and the incorporation, there's a national, international focus as well. And for national office, it's mainly right across the motu, right across all our lands, right across the motu. And that, of course, that whole setup is set up around our Tuturu organisation, around the componentries Tuturu of an iwi, of our iwi, of Tahumaakaakanuimatua. So everything's set up around there. That sort of infrastructure is what we have there. Okay, and so we work around that, work all our decisions around all of that and around everything I just spoke about just then. There, of course, is Tahumaakaakanuimatua. And then we look very centrally at the take, who's revolved around the take, te mea. Who are the main players around that take, te mea. and we move forward and we make our decisions accordingly. Now, we also, we decide what sort of consensus we need, and usually they're pretty easy to see because they get used to me calling out what sort of consensus we need. Okay, and sometimes we can do away, we don't do away with too much less than a 65-75% consensus. Okay, but there are times where we need unanimous consensus, and they're the toughest ones, the unanimous consensus. So, and they're very difficult to get. They govern, or they help us to manage just how long take will take. And this is the thing, and we work tututu. All these procedures and processes and systems are tututu. Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Now, when we, when it comes to that, the unanimity sometimes can make kōrero, and take stretch for 6 months sometimes. We're talking around them for 6 months. Or if you've got a president or a person like me, Ariki Matsua, within the fold, within the board, who knows how to work out the timings necessary and knows how to push those decisions forward and work them. I've been in the job for so long, I just do that automatically, so people get used to all of that as well. But just to give you an idea of some of the robust and strenuous processes that are going to be fully in motion as we work through in these weeks, these various times where we need to make decisions around the settlements to come. Oh well, I understand once we do, what we're hoping is that after this week or next week, we'll actually be going into, we will complete our talks through the Kahungunu Settlement Entity. They'll give us our final instructions, or the Crown will give that, and then we'll meet at the location where we will obviously go through and work through the deal and negotiate through that. And now I'm not too sure how many weeks or so. We don't want to be taking too long with ours. We're probably going to take no more than a week. So, roughly 2 weeks' time. Yeah, roughly 2 weeks' time. If we get everything in the go-ahead done through this week or by next week, roughly 2 weeks' time after that, we will have settled. Yeah, because we're not going to take so long because we've been ready for this, what seems like forever now, since 2014, 2015. We've been ready for this, but just unable to settle. And now we've got more favourable conditions, and we've got more compromise from the Crown, and we've got more what seems like the greatest compromise coming from some of the opposition. Obviously, there's others that aren't looking so great. They're looking like they're against some of the opposition and also us. So, but those would be two of the groups that we're coming up to talk about. They're coming up next in the complaints. Yes, complaints against Wairarapa Moana and Rangitane. They are coming up straight after the update. And then we've got within the talks, we've got quite a fair bit here, but I suspect that most of this kōrero isn't, it isn't going to be difficult to get through. Just basically revising a number of various, because some of the questions that we came up with after last week questioned very minor details. They were priority details, but that we only spoke on briefly last week. So a lot of the very brief details that came through last week, like horo whenua and what is the makeup of our claims within horo whenua. And yes, that goes over the entirety, but in the end we end up with the Tahumaakaakanuimatua, apart from Muaupoko, ancestries within horo whenua itself, which revolve around Māmoe, Tahumata Whaiti, Kahu, Taomatarahimatua, and Rā Kainui. Within there, that comes to around about just under a third, I think it is, just under a third of the land. So we like, for instance, that particular part of that kōrero, where we talk about briefly some of the areas of those things that were questioned after last week's kōrero. So and actually for some of the things that are coming up within the settlements, what we're expecting, actually for some of the expectations that we have, we're quite speechless about. But we don't want to mention those things until, in most cases, what people don't realise is that we need, I think people expect us sometimes prior to or pre the actual events, or pre actually knowing properly what we need to know in order to make decisions around those things, or take a particular direction on something, is mainly because e tatauma, that we need to be fully, everything needs to be affirmed up. We need those full confirmations of anything before we can make fully the decisions around anything that come up for us within our kōrero, within our kōwhiriwhiria discussions and everything. Te wānanga take, e rā tuahua katoa, te kōrero take. Ai, te tau kai, e rā mea katoa. Te whakātuake o te kōrero o te take, te mea. Te whakaaro nui ki te take, e rā tuahua katoa. Yeah, it's very, 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 very professional, but very, very tūturu all the same. So it's not all about the modern day knowledge of these things, even though they're very well enhanced with modern day aspects and concepts, very, very well enhanced, just like we are technologically, etc., and around te rōra, all around legalistic aspects of what we do. We look at all those areas in the modern day which help to enhance everything that we do tūturu, or that we do customarily. Just one of the things I want to mention is that, well, what's going to make my role a lot easier is once I have my queen, once the queen of the tahu is ready and able to, she will also sit on my boards with me. In fact, every one of our marae, where we have anything to do with those marae, amongst all of our hapu uretarewa, and she will take the main role, the main kōrero role, and the main governance role and management role around that. That's the way we do it in Tahumaakaakanuimatua, and we still do it just as in the days of old, where ko te wahine ke, te kahurangi, te mārei kura ke anō, te tapairu, anō hoki ko ia ke te tino pou whakahaere o I nei mea katoa. I tahi wā ko te tāne, so kai te pai āhau, so I'm okay to be doing, e pai ana āhau, to be doing these sorts of utilising these sorts of roles. But my role becomes very isolated. Even when she comes on board, I will still have my own overall governance role, which is why they call me the Te Ariki Matua. So it doesn't matter whether I'm president, GM or CEO, it doesn't matter. Te Ariki Matua covers the whole lot. And that's a very isolated role. And so, yeah, I have that. But I'm lucky, a lot of my chairship, a lot of my organisation and, the Tutura organisation, etc., of our boards will suddenly go under the Queen of the Tahumaakaakanuimatua, which is the Tutura way of doing of working within our governance roles, as we did in former times. Okay? And I will come in when I need to, but usually mostly when I'm called on to give advice, when I'm called on to assist in kōrero, or when I'm called on to introduce kaupapa or start kaupapa off. Usually a lot of those things are highly important, not to persuade people one way or the other, but to work down the line and bring us a presentation of the kōrero around the take. And, that's where I'll mention a lot of those things. Hea nei, tonu hoki te tāte atua tōhona titiro, ki tēnei kaupapa, ki tēnei take. Hea hake nei o hona, hea o honana, hea rātāna, ana. Ko tāna e whakaaro ki rā i te āhuatanga ki te take, pēnāna. All those sorts of things. Why does the Lord think that way to a kaupapa like this? Why would this be his will? What would be his will? I roto I tēnei kaupapa, within this take, this topic, this subject. Sometimes I give those main kōrero, I start all the kōrero off. And then there's a lot of times where I'll end. Otherwise, usually, koia nā tonu hoki tā te mārei kura. Tā te uere wehu tei tā hana ki roto ki ngā tua Whiatanga katoa pēnei nei. Koia tonu anō hoki rā tērā. Pau whakahaere katoa no i ngā tua Whiatanga katoa. Ngā kōmititanga nunui katoa, koia tēnā tonu āna, i ngā marae, i ngā aroha mai, kaua i ngā marae, i ngā whare rūnanga, i ngā whare nui, ngā whare tūpuna, ki roto ki ngā hapu, kia mātau, kai roto kai ngā tua Whiatanga ki o mātau i a Tutura tama, ai a rā kai nui, ai a mea nei, i a te ao matarahi matua, puta tiki roto māmoe, puta tiki roto era ai. E rā hapu katoa, hapu une tārewa. Ngā rūnanga o roto o tēnā, ngā rūnanga hapu une tārewa. Koia nana tonu tā haku e rā, tonu āhaku e kōrero hia kene. Okay, so all those boards, all those komiti, ngā komititanga kai roto, koia tonu te pau whakahaere matua. Koia tonu tērā. So, yeah, it won't be so lonely, but I will still have that sort of isolated role where I can join in with decision-making, and I usually do, but I always have to give that, like a chair does, but then again, the Queen will be like the chair. I'm like the, I forget the name, but we always operated with one when we first started back in 1998. Yeah, we operated with it's like a roaming chair or something like that. I forget the name, but a very isolated position. But Te Ariki Matua is a lot higher than even that. And so a lot of that type of role comes in. All sorts of different powers and all sorts of different needs. And let's not forget this is about Hapu nui tonu na tārewa, iwi, or state, or LNG, or nation operation. That's what this is all about in Tutura organisation. So it's a lot more complex, a lot more subtle, a lot more sophisticated. And there's a lot more to think about. So a lot of these things are going to come into play. I think us considering a lot of these things lately is highly, highly, highly important for us to be thinking about right now, because these are a lot of the things that we're thinking around right now. And so I'm looking forward to that, though, where my queen will have that role and be taking the lead in all of the whakatunga here, or the management role and governance role of the Komiti.TeOuere.03.04.23. Me ngā tēnā kāwanahia, tēnā kāwanahia tēnā. Puta tiki roto ki te kaporeihana matua, I roto tērā. Ena o mātau kātoatoa, kai roto kai te kaporeihana matua, whakaere katoa no ohona. And Business Central and Finance Central and Business Finance and Governance within there, whakaere katoa no ohona. Yeah, so very exciting time, eh? Very exciting time. And then we've got, you know, our finance chief and all those people, all those very important people that have always had a very important role there for us. And that a lot of the time, you know, sometimes they go unspoken. So I just want to mention a lot of those people here. And a lot of those within finance areas that have been in there working hard and doing the hard yards for us right through, and that have brought us to this really momentous, it's a really momentous occasion, but we want to stay focused. That's why I am feeling the way I am tonight, very focused, very at peace, very relaxed, very busy still, but highly productive. Yeah, highly productive these days, where, just about anything and everything now. A lot of the time in previous years, say like 2017 and prior to then, we had to put things on the shelf, put things on the shelf, put things on the shelf, hold things up. All of a sudden things are, speeding forward as it has been the last couple of years. And really pushing forward and the way we like to work. We're still a bit off our pace, just as a matter of having to, but once we reach our pace, I know that pace because I've moved at full throttle with Tutahu Trust Tahu Investments Limited. I know what that's like, but it's going to get even worse. It's going to get so much, it's going to get, pōrangi te haere. Pōrangi te haere. And so, it's going to be a real busy, and it's going to take some real professionalism and nous, like I know that our Queen will have, to work through that sort of climate, that sort of atmosphere. And with me looking on and looking right across everything and overseeing everything, of course. But, it'll be great to see where I don't have to do all that work anymore. It'd be awesome. What I'm happy about is that I've been able to bring all the people, all our governors, and even those new ones that come on soon, they will come on. We'll have lots of different governors brought in every 5 years. Specifically into the incorporation. And, of course, those people will learn the ropes just like everyone else has, where I'm very, 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 very blatant, very, very I can be attitudinal. I can be very, very serious, And it's a matter of having to be. I think this industry calls for you to be. This industry calls you out, really. It makes you go that way. And if you don't, you're really defeating the purpose in this industry. You still keep your wits about you, and I understand in modern terms what that is and what that means. But first and foremost, you have to get with the realities of exactly what we're dealing with. And still, in terms of, we talk about iwi. Now, if this is particularly about iwi development, then what we're talking about is something out of the years of between circa 1769 AD and today. Okay? Between then and today. And we need to be absolutely, positively sure that we know exactly what we're talking about from right throughout that time into 1840 and from right throughout that time into now. What all of that means, because we're still basically trying to grow and mature from all of the consequences out of those times and move forward as people. And I'm talking Tuturu people, not iwiwi, I'm talking Tuturu people as Hapu nui tonu le tā le warani, And how we move forward in that fashion is a very, very complex and very, very complicated system, process and procedure. So, it takes a lot. It takes a lot and a lot of time. And people have already asked me what's the focus after settlement. After settlement, I said, the hard work begins, of course. They said, gosh, I thought we had already started that about 27 years ago. I said, no, our work has just begun. Our work has just begun. And it doesn't get easier. It doesn't get easier for us, it gets harder. And the work has just begun. And what I mean by that is that the growing will get exponential. The growth will get exponential. The advancement will get exponential. How are we going to govern around that and manage that? Very, very tough to be able to manage that. At points where we start to drop in advancement, in strength, in development, what are we going to employ to, all those sorts of things we have to think about. Can the strategies still work? Is our strategic positioning still workable? Etc., etc., etc. How do we need to focus internationally? Nationally and regionally and locally, we will pretty much have things covered. But how will we do that? Does the atmosphere and the climate and landscape change internationally? Well, no, basically not for us culturally as an organisation. But how we operate may become a lot more complex, a lot more. We might need a lot more like flexibility in there, and be a bit more open to varieties of ways of operating within different areas of the communities that we're working within overseas. And things like that. Lots and lots to consider, lots and lots to work at, and lots of different systems to be working and making sure that they're in working order, etc., 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 etc. All of the assessing systems, all of the reviewing systems and all that sort of thing around governance need to be in tip-top shape and workable. So, all these things we're coming into probably one of the most interesting times, and like I said last week, groundbreaking one of the most important groundbreaking moments for us. We've been through a lot of those, even through all the tough times that we've had. We've still had groundbreaking, momentous occasions and massive milestones to work through. And they haven't been easy either. Okay, they've had their challenges. And so as we work through this, yes, we're coming up to our settlement, and yes, one of the questions that was posed to me, mind you, this should come up next, is around what I said of the kahunu rangitane. You know, the past reign where they were brought through by the Crown Grand Narrative no longer applies. Really, it's gone, and they need to accept that fact. They need to accept that they are not the primary iwi, the one of preeminence, prominence, and primacy of the region. And they just need to accept that and embrace that. No, I wasn't lying about that. I wasn't lying about that. Okay, and that's what was asked of me was I really being real about that? Was I telling the truth about that? Yes, I was. Yes, I was. And they do. They need to really embrace that, because though they're tribes of the area, they need to embrace the simple fact that they're not of the traditional status that they thought they were, and that the Crown overly exaggerated over the years to make them think that they were, and that they largely continue to think that they were, which is why we've had all the trouble the last 15 years. What we want to see is to what extent the Crown pays for that, because the Crown obviously was at fault for all of that. And just like they said at the final reading of the Wairarapa Settlement Bill last year in December, they directly targeted the Crown for the blame on all those things that they've been through. The fact that they haven't been able to settle on their tūturu iwi, everything customary has been, destroyed, all their infrastructures, etc., etc. Tikanga tika me te kawa, e-rā-mea-katoa. They haven't been able to work from throughout any of those sorts of, systems and processes in the space. They blame the Crown for that. That's a great thing to hear them doing that at Parliament at their final reading, because that shows a huge turnaround, where they're no longer fooled by that false security that's always been, it's always had a real grasp on their mai, on the kahunu uri. It's always had a real grasp on them, their false security from the Crown, where the Crown waves around that almighty green dollar sign, and you suddenly get sucked in and think you've got all the security and confidence that you need, but you really don't. See? And that's what they've come to learn, and I take my hat off to them. If they really have learnt their lesson from that, that's awesome. And that means they've already started kahunu uri on embracing that. So, e tata mai, that'll come up a bit later on within all of those brief take to be spoken about. And the last one today, the whakatapu and investigation will come into the complaints. That's the complaints against Wairarapa Moana and Rangitane. Now, I actually have some good news to finish off our update today on the settlements, and that is that I think we're not going to be complaining against the kahunu. That's the good news. That's some of the kōrero that's reached us is that we're not going to have to complain against kahunu doing the same thing. Just Wairarapa Moana and Rangitane. So, awesome, Awesome. But the last of our kōrero today is focused around TeAwa, Moai Hapu. and Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Some of our people have questioned our operations. What are our tūturu operations around those areas? Even some on the runanga have questioned that, because they want to know quite tightly what are the procedures, what are the capacities, and what are our capabilities as an iwi. As we operate alongside TeAwa, as we operate alongside Moai Hapu as well. How do we operate that? I said, well, good question. Firstly, they're doing the right thing by operating through me. Everything goes through me. I am ariki matua. And so, and also to TeAwa and to Moai Hapu, not only ariki matua, but also ariki mataura and taio puru, and also a part of Moai and TeAwa. We are the most senior surviving of TeAwa. And so very, very special. We're very, very special. Through Tutura, firstly. Okay, then TeAwa. Okay, then Moai. So yes, very, very good to ask. Very, very important question, that one. So we're going to finish off on that one, where we saved the best for last. Yeah. Talking about not just Tahumaakaakanuimatua, but TeAwa, and also Moai Hapu. So we're going to talk about the various procedures. How does that work? What sort of organisational nuances there are we need to be aware of, etc., etc., etc. How systemically does that work, so that we can work properly within that? And so we're getting a little bit more talking done around those systems, but I just thought I'd integrate that into the kōrero today, because it was a part of the questioning of last week, because I've often brought up TeAwa and Moai within our kōrero. And of course, we are tutu TeAwa through Tutura and also Moai Hapu through TeAwa. And through the uriteina of Moai Hapu, via TeAwa, our connection also to Hawaii. And of course, Tutura is our connection with Samoa. So there we go. Hawaii, Maui, Samoa again, Tonga. Okay. Hawaii, Samoa again, Tonga. And Tutura, Tutuila, Samoa. But our most direct descent is Moai Hapu. So they come first in any of our organisation. It's always Moai Hapu most direct. TeAwa Hapu most direct. And then Tahumaakaakanuimatua via Tutura Hapu Uretārewa. Okay? And so, yeah, lots of systemic issues and processes to be well aware of. Lots of tikanga and kawa revolve around all those areas, and that we need to consider from both ends, from their end and from ours. Okay, so the mana of each of those lines is considered and upheld right through. Okay, so whether it be junior or senior, it doesn't matter. Every part of that mana, let's not forget, we're all mana tapu, Tahumaakaakanuimatua, Tutura TeAwa, and Moai Hapu, we're all mana tapu. Okay? And that's I mean, you can't get higher mana than that. Even the Queen, you know, after a long time, the Queen might have mana tapu, but I doubt whether the Queen has that at the moment, because, you know, we're not given. I mean, we're still. We basically would need to have back our landlordship and all that sort of thing first before we considered anything around that mana tapu within the Queenship of London, England, Westminster. In other words, sorry, not London, England, Westminster. That's for kingship. It's queenship. It's kingship for London, England, for Great Britain. That's where the kingship reaches out to his mana. So mana tapu after a long time, but at the moment a lot of that is still in a very destroyed state. So we cannot consider that around mana tapu. Mana tapu issues are very, very different. They're of the highest order. And that's what we are. Well, we're not just senior, but we're senior of the highest order. Okay? And that's another order again, you know. I mean, we never gave the Queen sovereignty here. But let's say that we did. Even still, there would be a higher order than the sovereignty of this country. And there would be the mana tapu of this country. And that was held by the seniorities. And you know what? They set to work. As soon as they got the Te Tiriti signed, they set to work to get rid of that next. The mana tapu of seniority was attacked full on in the country straight after the signing of the treaty. So they thought that their fraudulent assumed sovereignty that they had in the country was enough to be able to fraudulently do away with the authority of the seniority in the country. And then take full control from 1854 with the racial government, the racial parliament via the Westminster system set up via the New Zealand Corporation, New Zealand Crown, Corporation in the country. Ai, tino, kino e rā tuahuatanga katoa, kino rawa. E rā mea katoa te karauna, I mea toru I honei ki roto ki o tātou mātou, mātua tūpuna ki o rātou nawa. Tūpuna mātua, mātua tūpuna ki o rātou nawa. E tātou mā, very, very sad times and very, very wicked times they were, and wicked things to be going through. And I dare say that they were dispatching of things at a very, very fast pace too, I must add. 1840, 1843, between 1843 and 1850 and 1854. So up to there, working up towards there, and 1854, from just 1839, they just about had full control of the country, and that's why they established the racial parliament under Westminster, the Westminster system in 1854. Okay, so we finish off our kōrero today, tonight with, because we're running late today, tonight with kōrero on the systemials. Mai I roto I ngā tuahuatanga ki te tika me te tikanga me te kawa. O roto I te mana tautika I te mana tika o Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Kia te pā eke o Tahumaakaakanuimatua tūturu. Okay, so we kapai. So we've had the best of those kōrero e tātou mā, where we have done away with the update for now. Awesome update, and I can't wait to get through these Crown talks. I can't wait to get to the deal stage that we've been so ready for. But even if whatever other details the Crown has to talk around, we certainly don't want to be taking too long with those. But we'll have to see how those go and what those details are, and work through things accordingly as well. Okay? We have through... Oh, that's one of the other things. Some of the fuller whakapapa of our tūpuna too. will start to come through a lot of our kōrero. So we'll start to quote through a lot of our kōrero, like through our uretārewa, etc., etc. Like for uretārewa, usually you don't quote the female lines, because the female lines are not what comes through uretārewa, it's the male lines. Okay, so and some people have been asked, oh, well, what about the female lines? And we say, well, of course we've always had those, but we never share them. We keep them matatapu, we keep them confidential, and but we'll start to bring through a lot of those as time goes on, because people want to hear about those and bring us through a lot of those, a lot of that kōrero as well. Which, of course, is just as important to us and just as vital to us as well. And, highly important as we move on. E tātou mā. Did I complete that kōrero of the, at the end of the update there? I was going to finish off on a particular note, eh? Yeah, I'm sure I did mention it there, but I'm not too sure as to whether I actually completed that. But however, hopefully we get through those talks that we need to, and we get to that negotiation of settlement stage of the deal, of which we won't take too long about, and then move forward from there. But yes, some good news that, isn't that good news, eh? That we might not need to. And in fact, kahunu uri are being very, very, since our talks with Hami, the Whaiti, and, the kahunu settlement entity. Yeah, things went so well, and we were also going through the hearings of the Wairarapa settlement bill at the same time, right through that time, August, September, October, November, December. Okay, and everything closed down after the final reading in December, and things worked out really, really well. Massively impressed by that final reading and the kōrero that came out of there. Massively impressed we were. Tahumaakaakanuimatua. But we're hoping to see more. Kia tino whakatinana hia, whakatitukitia te whakatinana mai o e nā kōrero, e nā whakautinga kōrero. E nāna o ngā huihuinga tahi mai o e wa kōrero. E rā katoa te kōmititia. Mai o e nā katoa ki roto ki awa kōrero. Kia tituki pai mai anō ai ki te whakatinana hia tonu anō hoki. Kia tātou, kia tēnā, kia tēnā, mai tonu anō ia kahunu uri. Okay, so Aroha mai. But we just, we want to see more of the realization and the materialization of the entirety of that call that'll come through in the actions, of course, and the kōrero and the movements of kahunu uri to really, drive things home. That's exactly what's come forward from that. And that what we have been hearing and seeing after that reading was exactly what it was. And everything is confirmed, and we can all start to move forward together. Because what that would mean is an absolute unification is on the table and before us, between kahunu uri, under the 16th line from Te Mane, Te TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai, who is the great-grandfather of the Moteo okay? And from whose line we go into eventually the line of Kahuna, which is the fourth line from Moteo and Iwi Te Rerewa of Rakainui Teira Tū Roto of Rakainui and Teira Roa of Rakainui. And also Tamateo Rehaya being a waitaha rangi, Hapu le tārewa, and also a mea nei, mai I roto moenga wahine, o Tahumaakaakanuimatua te toru. Ai, o roto I ngā whakapaparanga ki ngā tūpuna mātua kia rātai. Okay, and so we, if they unify with us, that is the line that is fully as a part officially, once we come through that kōrero, once we bring it through and bring them before, we might even bring them before the incorporation, but then again, there's no need to. We can just bring them before the runanga or representatives of their board, bring them through the runanga and have an official sitting around that where it's officially decided and officially put through the runanga as a consensus, as an official consensus and unanimous as a consensus at that moment in time. Okay, and obviously it'll be all signed off by the board and signed off by their representatives as well. It's official that the line of kahunu uri of waitaha rangi hapu una tārewa te mea te kau o roto Tahumaakaakanuimatua tūturu. Ko ia hoki tēnā kua tino whakahoki mai, kua tino hoki tonu mai kua kotahi mai anō me tēnā o mata. That's huge. That's huge. Hopefully we can get the same eventually with Wairarapa Moana and Rangitane, but at the moment they're trying to settle as isolated groups, independent groups, and also groups that refuse the same thing, but groups that want to operate independently also in the region and still settle over our lands and people. And what we're saying is, rawa nei, karaka hoki tēnā I te tino tikanga tūturu ki roto ki a tātai mātou, karaka. Ko tino kore nei e tāia e koutou. Tēnā mea o te Whakataunga Kereeme ki runga ki ngā tūpuna mātua ki a mātou, ki a Tahumaakaakanuimatua tūturu. A karakau hoki e tāia ana e koutou te Whakataunga Kereeme ki ngā wenua. Tāwaha wenua, pitatu, ki te rohe whenua nei kia Wairarapa Taranua. O te mataua a māui tiki, ataranga, karaka, tino kore kau, o roto I a mātau o ngā tūākana o roto. I a TeAwa tonu hoki anō, I a Moai Hapu tonu hoki anō. Karaka. And so we look into a lot of those things very seriously. And so as you well know, I spoke a fair bit about that last week on the whakatapu, how that will operate in these matters, and also the investigation. We will move forward with the investigation first. There's the possibility we will need to turn the whakatapu right up to full power should these groups proceed and should they refuse to comply. Okay, and that's sad. That's sad because that would have to go right across the whole of the region. That said, that would mean we would need to hold up all other matters of unification with Kahunuuri until these groups decide. And that's how we've decided to operate the whakatapu via the entire of the region, which is not only a strategic deployment of the whakatapu, but the one we chose is the best way in which to operate under the circumstances, because operating block by block or region by region means putting down a number of whakatapu, which is a lot harder to manage. You know, the governance and logistics based around all of that sort of thing is not easy at all. And so, yeah, we were only going to operate on a region-by-region basis, either the whole of Whakataunga or the whole of Wairarapa or nothing. Okay, so we're hoping that these other groups will come to the party, come to the talks. People ask me around, you know, would these be issues that would mean that we need to be considering war? I said, yes, they are. I mean, you understand why though, don't you? It's like if I was a farmer, if I was on my farm and I had these poachers come in, and these poachers decided that they would take all my chickens, all my horses, all my cows, all my cattle, all my sheep, and all of that sort of thing. And as they entered my land, because, you know, it's private land and they, you know, they're trespassing, if they come onto their private land, you know what? I'm able to pull out my shotgun and fire shots anywhere near the vicinity of where they are, just to make sure that that scares them out of the area, and also make sure that's a similar thing. That's a similar thing to what's happening, but this is a bit different. These factions are trying to hijack those areas and those ancestries within the region. They're using crown sanctions with which to do that. And they're saying, oh, because now we can make the inaccurate outcomes of our research look legal still by putting sanctions on them, they're now legal. So quite simply, the entire of the deal is that the entire of the deal is that what we've come to is, in actual fact, a time where, you know, they are going to have to realise that no, that won't do, because that is not legal, and the facts still haven't changed. I mean, where have they changed the facts? The facts are still the same. They're still our ancestries. You know, we still are the holders of the manatapu in the region, see? And where issues like that are of priority in the mix, or within the kōrero, or within the argument, issues of manatapu become the prevailing issues. That is Tutura. So these people are in a lot of trouble if they're trying to say, oh, well, because they've got lines in rangitane, and to us this is rangitane land. Well, Luka. We're the only ones that have been here in this land, and all those lands in the argument are all a part of those lands. Then, you know, we've been here. We are the ahikaroa here. We've been here the longest. We were here first, in other words. That's what ahikaroa means. Now, how can they say things like that? You know, that's just like a muru or a raipatu. That even though their land is ours and those ancestries are ours, you're saying, oh, you've got every right just because the Crown sanctions their land to come in and just take it. Because I've got a rangitane or I've got a Wairarapa moana link in the chain. That's it. And that's not true. You're very, very junior groups, and that needs to be considered in the mix. That your consideration within that would come, Rangitane would come, well, no, actually WhakataungaKereeme would come last, because they're actually more junior than the Rangitane line in this case. Okay, so yeah, we need to consider all those types of issues within the argument, and so so it becomes a very, very we think they're quite straightforward arguments, that they're not so complicated or difficult to get through, but groups like this tend to be so confused that they frustrate the whole of the argument. They come from totally different left field or left, right, outfield areas of the argument that it's just ridiculous to argue with, but you've got to keep putting it to them straight. Now, this is tūturu. Ko ia tēnei te tūturu. Ki roto ki ngā kōrero katoa o te take nei. Wia te ahika aroa, ko ia tonu e ngā whenua nana. E whenua, tonu e nana. Kai roto anō rāhoki tēnā ahika aroa. So, you can't change those facts. Te tino mutunga mai o te tūākana anō hoki mātau. I roto e nā tūpuna mātau, you can't change those. No matter how you sanction it, the facts still stay the same. And the conclusions still stay the same. You can't just come up with some modern day, overly exaggerated notion and change it just because you think you can, or the Crown makes it look like you think you can, and makes it legal or look legal for you to be able to. Okay, and the first instance that we get of refusal of compliance from either of these groups, and we're talking the overwhelming number. In terms of the overwhelming number, we're talking between about 70 and 90%. That's ridiculous, eh? That is actually phenomenal. It's quite ridiculous that they would look at a settlement. I mean, even a 70%, amount of Tahumaakaakanuimatua in any settlement, surely that needs to be a Tahumaakaakanuimatua settlement. Not a Wairarapa moana o rangitane nui a rangi. Okay? And we're talking between 70 and 90% of those actual settlements. Now, they're in big trouble. And we're working with the Crown with those as well. And we're very, very happy so far. Because tūturu consideration is being given to us, and we're so thankful for that. And also for the simple fact that we're keeping these factions honest, keeping them on their toes, and making sure that they get this right, that they can't just do this willy-nilly just because the modern day and the ability to sanction things gives you some sort of legal leg room to be able to do certain things, and so you go for it. Well, the legal leg room for manatapu like ours doesn't count. I mean, if you're a practitioner of the law, legal leg room like that is not enough, in other words. Okay, which is why we're challenging and complaining officially against those particular settlements, and they'll have to shut them down. Now, we'll bring in the investigation next should they not comply with our wishes. They'll have to shut them down because we'll ask them to. If they don't comply, we'll bring in the investigation, because then it would actually be absolutely against the law, what they're doing. Okay? There would be an entire trespass on the legal rights and the jurisprudence of Tahumaakaakanuimatua, the mana tautika, mana tika, te tikanga me te kawa, o te pāe keke o Tahumaakaakanuimatua, ki roto, ki waira rapa ki tararua o te matau a māu I tiki, ataranga. aye. And so they will need to deal with the police after that. I'll be pushing for them to be charged. Should they continue to not comply, I will be with those police. And they will question around the basis of the arguments that I bring. Okay, not only that, I will brief them on the different aspects and concepts that we need to argue about with these groups. Found guilty right there before the police, they're going to get charged. And that's what I'm going to want. And those are our rights. We are an iwi. None of them are iwi. That's why I said before they should, I think that was the end of the update of settlements, that they should embrace that. And that's right. And so I would be talking to WhakataungaKereeme and Rangitane around that. Rangitane, they should embrace that, because those are groups that come under that umbrella. Now, kahunuri is fine, I hear, and that's really, really good. But the investigation will do exactly that, and they will get charged and taken to court on those matters and be found guilty, because we'll have all the evidence by then. Okay? What am I going to do after that? I will ask for those entities that run these settlements to be shut down. That would be my recommendation to the court, to the judge, to the jury, and to the police on those matters. Okay? And I'm not joking, but I'm going to look for them to be shut down if they do not comply. Okay? Hopefully we don't have to use the whakatapu, and being people that are a bit more sensible these days, a bit more sensible these days, we don't push for war so easily these days. And what a good thing to have, what a good, we've got the capabilities of preserving more. And that's the greater of the needs in the modern day, is to preserve, not take out, not kill off, Preserve. We need to be preserving more rather than, warring with. Yes. Though we would consider that. We're not silly. If we need to go to war, we'll go. No two questions about that. Tahumaakaakanuimatua isn't silly. Tahumaakaakanuimatua will stand up and do the job there as well. Okay, but we need to look to preserve. We need to look to assist. We need to look to be more supportive around, because so many of the different take around today. We look at the gangs, for instance, we look at the gangs. Look at a lot of the state abuse care, abuse in state care, all that sort of thing. What real sensitive issues. No wonder they've been such a wild bunch over the years. Hey. So we need to consider a lot of those groups, and things like that. In fact, not just them, all our groups. There's lots and lots of different issues from right throughout. It'll be the same with WhakataungaKereeme. It'll be the same with Rangitane. So hopefully we don't have to shut them down at all. But I will call for that. Why? Because it has been the recommendation of National Office. They've had enough. It's as if we haven't spelt it out clearly enough over the last 15 years. And here they go. They come in with settlements. 70 to 90. That's appalling. Absolutely extraordinary. Kari te tino pai. Tēnā te WhakataungaKereeme mai. I roto anō ki tonu. I nā pai he neti o te āhuatanga ki ngā WhakataungaKereeme i ngā tūpuna mātua i ngā wenua tonu o roto. Whakatunga. Now that's appalling, absolutely disgusting. So that's how things are going to go there. And the last resort, obviously, the whakatapu, we will need to take it right up to full power. And I would say we'd get total compliance then. But we shouldn't have to go that far. And let's be sensible, e tatauma. It gets very dangerous, of course, if we have to go that far. So we shouldn't have to. Yeah. We shouldn't have to. And we haven't had to yet. So hopefully we don't have to now. Okay, and that's koina nā hoki tēnā te āhuatanga ki ngā WhakataungaKereeme me ngā te kōwhete haere o mātau ki roto ki nā nao ngā WhakataungaKereeme ki Wairara Patararua. Those WhakataungaKereeme and those complaints there are hugely important for us to consider and to discuss, and even to bring up in these and this type of kōrero and this type of forum is very, very highly important for us, because we need to things like this at this stage shouldn't be happening. I said that a few weeks ago. At this stage, this shouldn't be happening. Tino kūware. Tēnei tū āhuatanga, tino kūware. Te tahi mea ke anō, he whakahihi. Whakahihi tonu. Tari ngā turi tonu hoki o ngā tāngatani. I remember saying that about kahungunu. And it used to be in the past, kahungunu uri. Now they seem to be listening a lot more, and these particular factions are not. Karakawi te taringa turi. Taringa turi refers to not just an incapability of using the ears so well, but also arrogance. It refers to arrogance, the arrogance of people. If you're a people always being called taringa turi, then ai tino whakahihi no koutou. Tino whakahihi o koutou I roto I nā kupu. Me te whakahuahia mai o koutou ki roto ki awa kupuna. Okay? And so we need to etatama, pay more attention. Embrace also all of that kōrero, because it's very, very important in the days to come as the complaints progress. Of course, the other one of our complaints we brought up a few weeks ago on the fraudulence that happened around Te Tiriti 1840, we incorporated that into our claim. So all that evidence is there ready to go as well. And, well, we could have treated in the same, but we actually couldn't move forward on that because it could have affected our settlements. So we need to leave that one for after settlement. We also, I would say, well, it depends what the Crown says around our recommendations. So wait for that and then see where we need to go to from there. They may just fully agree that our allegations were correct, and so it becomes a part of our settlement, which would be groundbreaking again. More groundbreaking stuff from Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Awesome, eh? Awesome. Okay, now some of the brief kōrero that came out around some of the kōrero, some of the take kōrero, and some of the issues that were brought up around the briefs of the kōrero, that came up around questioning after our kōrero last week. Our people, Tutura, a people in old times based around in iwi was in fact a hapu, or a hapu Hapu nui tonu ure tārewa. There was an iwi of the structure and form built around about between 5 and 8 or 10 plus ure tārewa. And like for us, we're made up of 12. So if you're not of that structure, you're not really a people. The iwi, or the people that we're referring to out there, a lot of us today is really an iwiwi, which is like loosely a people. And that's what you're really saying, is loosely a people. Koia nā tonu hoki tēnā te iwiwi. Okay? And so we'll just clarifying that for us. There are other things in there. So, yeah, the modern day clarification of that. Kahunu rangitane, not being a primary iwi, or an iwi as such, not of the same form. The reo structure is not of the same form either. So there's no tūturu reo, no reo formed around the structures and parameters of an iwi. Koina nā tonu hoki te whaia kiko. Kai mua tonu hoki kai a tātou harakau I te iwi. A kahunu rangitane. So they need to, apart from the whakapapa and whakapapa kōrero that's missing, that they do not have either. They will say that they are the iwi. And to be able to really formulate that and gather together some real collated evidence around that and proof would be for them to produce the whakapapa of the original lineage, ancestry, descents of Tahumaakaakanuimatua from Kahunu and Rangitane. That would prove it. Pretty much that they were the iwi and we came from them, all those sorts of things that they claimed from 2009, that we asked for the evidence for from 2015, and that we asked from the Crown as well since 2015. Okay, and they still are not able to produce. The Crown has no evidence of the sort either. The Crown has, dealings around people that called themselves kahunu. That's neither here nor there. Okay? Just because they said to Crown, land or land meeting officials that, Crown land meeting officials that they were representing kahunu on that day and that moment, doesn't prove anything. Tuturu. No doubt they had about 5 or 6 or even 7 different affiliations. Okay? Talking to us about one of them, and if it's kahunu, that's a very junior one. So that is not a preeminent or a prominent or a primacy or a senior, all those things that you need for there to be a primary iwi line of descent of kahunu in the region is just not there. Okay? So like what I would usually say of lines like that, neither here nor there. Neither here nor there. Okay? Kei te pai. So just verifying and clarifying that particular point there. They need to embrace that wholeheartedly. Because that's a take that's gone. They're not the iwi of the region. We are. We are the iwi. Okay? Every other line descends from us. We don't descend from any other line in the region. Every other line descends from us. Okay? Tuturu. Okay, and we come to Horowhenua, which would be the third lot of land groups that we're hoping to be able to settle our grievances there in Horowhenua, where the huge majority, over 2/3, is Moai, which is another of our Hapu Ureta Lewarane, And just under a third of the lands where we have legal rights and interests within those lands of Tahumaakaakanuimatua, just to prove further that Moai Poko is a part of Tahumaakaakanuimatua, because they'll find that they're widely intermarried with those particular hapu le tārewa, and rākai nui, Taumata Mamoe, which are also hapu nui tonu le tārewa, and Tahumata Whaiti and Kahu. Okay, and so Moai Poko, and Rākai Nui and Taumata Matua, which is where Moai Poko comes down through. They're the next line. There's Tutura Tama, that's our whakapapa, Tutura Tama, Rākai Nui, Taumata Matua, and then Moai Poko. Okay? But all those groups have whakapapa, have rights, and have te tangata o roto, kai roto tonu anō hoki I nā whenua. So they haven't even accounted for any of those ancestries in horo whenua. And so we'll be bringing all those ancestries back into horo whenua. Same was happening in the north, same was happening in the east, and also down south. No one was accounting for all the ancestries that came from Tahumaakaakanuimatua. So what did we do? We put them back in there. And how did we do that? We already had people with rights in the regions and the lands. And all those people with those rights we accounted for, and we also accounted for their tūturu uri, or hapu ure tārewa, or their tūturu lineage through our iwi in those lands. Okay, so those are some of the talks. So a few complexities to talk around with Moai Poko, and of course we have their reo, and of course we have record of their lands that they have. And also with some of our ancestries also link in those lands as well. In Te Whanganui o Rotu, Te Whanganui Atara, the same to the west, ki Te Uru, I roto Porirua, Putatiki Aorangi, Putatiki Waimarino. Yeah, they've got some Moai Poko lands throughout those areas that they haven't accounted for yet either, and also in the north. Te TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai, kai reira tonu anō hoki tahi, kai rata tonu anō hoki a Moai Poko I nā wenua. Putatiki te reo, putatiki te tikanga, putatiki te ahurea, kai roto katoa no, katoa nā, Iaua wenua. Okay, and so hopefully you're a lot clearer on all those sorts of things. Mind you, I knew that I had forgotten to mention last week the other sort of lineages and ancestries that have rights and interests in those lands in horo whenua as well. Okay? Right. Let's look at... there are a number of other ones here, but I don't think they're important at the moment. Plus, we can bring them in later. Okay, we can bring them in later and start to work through all of them. And so I'm going to go straight onto it because I think the time is going, and I haven't got my... Oh, hang on. Let's see if I can reach it just so I can keep a hold on the time there just to see. Oh, yes. We're very close to an ending there. So let's just talk briefly and quickly. I'll round off quickly with a brief talk around the systemial and the processes and systems operational within mana tautika, within tikanga and kawa, where Tahumaakaakanuimatua are concerned, where Tutura te Matua is concerned, or where TeAwa is concerned, us being the most senior surviving of TeAwa, and of course where Moai Hapu is concerned as well. Yeah, we're not too sure where the politics of Waikato stand. Within so far, we've had a lot of politics through the Waikato come through, and we're not too sure whether it's tied up with these issues with Whātua. We've got no worries with Whātua. We know where they are in the north, and we're really happy with Whātua, but we're not too sure where Waikato stands, or whether Waikato realise some of the Waikato, not all Waikato, we're not talking about all Waikato, but just a few individuals in there among the Waikato seem to think they've got more mana than they have. Now, we are very, very confident that they haven't. We're very, very confident that they haven't, and that they would be overreaching, like a lot of our Hapu Uretarewa. They would be overreaching, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, because they're far too junior to not be. Okay? Now, if you're a more junior, I mean, even a challenge towards Whātua is not something that I would enter into too quickly. I mean, there are Hapu Uretarewa from throughout lines of Awa Hapu. So they're strongly connected with Awa Hapu, Te Atiawa Nui no Runga Te Rangi Hapu as well. And so Waikato needs to be careful there. That's a very junior lineage. Now, when you go into Whātua, you're talking Moriori, and you're talking very close connection with Moai. And then, TeAwa and us, they're very closely connected with us. So, and I think that's where a lot of this questioning is coming from. So people are wanting to make sure, people of Tahumaakaakanuimatua, and also people of our hapori. Now, our hapori is where a couple of these questions came from. Now, how is that organised? We know that they're senior. How much mana really do they have over Tahumaakaakanuimatua? Well, I said to them, just to put it to you straight, not much. They don't have much mana, really. They do have some authority, and authority in terms that they are a senior iwi or a senior hapu, and we come from them. Okay, but we come from them in 3 other lines. Now, those 3 other lines revolve around 3 other entities. Now, those 3 other entities would revolve around Central Moai Hapu, TeAwa, Tutura Te Matua, that's also connected for us to Tutuila, Samoa. See, so we've got another line that comes into that. And then TeAwa, let's not forget our Samoa, Tonga and Hawaiian lines that connect into there. Okay, so Moai, and if they're working with Waikato, which is why a lot of these issues with Waikato is coming up, look, they need to be very, very careful, because Waikato is not that senior. See? So that's the difficulty there with Waikato. Yes, they've got plenty of mana, and especially in the land where, only from 1858 on, they had a kiingitanga, which is still a big thing to us. We weren't officially under that kiingitanga, but we still, we pay tribute, we acknowledge the kiingitanga. But the thing with us is in dealing with that. So we have no allegiance to kiingitanga officially. Okay, except that maybe they might come into play within Kohuiara or something like that, or the Confederation of Chiefs, as, the kingship. Where they do in there, that's fine. But outside of that, karakau I te whai mana a Waikato. Okay, and that's what I would say is the same within the lands of Whātua, because they're far too senior there. And so are we. we're far too senior. And remember me saying that last week? That's the other take I want to bring up around the issues that were talked around briefly from last week. Is that Waikato it does not have such extensive mana, and it's the mana side of things that's the most extensive between tribes. Sorry, it's the manatapu side. Sorry. So there's more manatapu or more, there's the seniority, it's the heights of seniority that are the biggest gap between the tribes. But as far as mana goes, not much at all. See? And that's why I said that. There's not much at all. Not much authority of Moai over TeAwa, not much of authority of TeAwa over us, because they have more authority over Tutura than us. Tutura has more authority over us, because they're our uretare. Okay, see how it works? And from there is our tuturatama, our ariki, right across the iwi. Why? Because the iwi is Tahumaakaakanuimatua. To the point where it changes through the uretare, that's where the authority is. Okay? Same with Tutura, the authority in Tutura is within the uretare. Okay? Same within TeAwa through the uretare. Okay, same with Moai through the uretare. So to the point where it changes, koia tēnā, te tino o te mana, oroto tēnā. Okay, so Tahumaakaakanuimatua, in other words, is responsible for Tahumaakaakanuimatua. I mean, you can't tell us what to do, to a degree. Okay? That's the authority that I have over Tahumaakaakanuimatua. To a degree, I can tell just about everyone what to do in Tahumaakaakanuimatua. The difference with that mana is that I have is at about 30% on the ground, can for some few things come back to me and say no. And there's not much I can do about that. I can argue till I'm blue in the face to get a yes from them, and they could still say no. They have that right on the ground. And that's how things work. Our rights on the ground for tahu are for tahu, from the uretare down. Same with Tutura are for Tutura from the uretare down. Same with TeAwa, te mea. Okay, same with Moai Hapu. But they can ask for some things. Koe te pai tēnā. And then we put it through our different systems. We talk to those people concerned where the take is for Moai. Ana katahi ka kōrero hia, katahi ka puta mai. He whakamutunga kōrero I roto I tēnā take, I roto I taua kōrero hia, ka mutu. He whakahoki kia Moai. Okay, and so again, for Moai to have authority over us, I mean, we could get back to them and say, Moai, karakau te tino pai. No te me karakau I te tika ki tā Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Okay, see? See, because we all have our own law systems, ne? We all have our own uretare, ne? And that's where the power base is. Mai I te uretare heke. Okay? You can't cross that boundary. It doesn't matter how senior you are. You can have authority in there, yeah. You can have mana in there, yeah. And you can ask for things, yeah. But you can't demand and say, blah, 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 because it doesn't work like that. Because you've got to get through a number of systems and processes before you do. And then you have to reach the people concerned centrally with the take that you're carrying. See? And those are the structures. So if you're saying, for those people that questioned around there, if you're saying you wanted to know how much mana we have and being able to argue against any demand of Moai Hapu, we have all the mana. Because anything pertaining to Tahumaakaakanuimatua tā Tahumaakaakanuimatua, te mana ki runga ki e nā mea katoa. Okay? Why? Because we're iwi. See? We're iwi. See, and we're the highest. You know, we're iwi to the fullest extent. We're hapu to the fullest extent. I mean, you can't get any higher than us. Be we junior or not, it doesn't matter. See? So no one can step over that. Tūra te matua can't step over that. Well, to a degree they can. To a degree. But we can still decide against on the ground. In some cases, see? See how there's always mana. Whether you're junior or senior, there's always some mana to consider. Some people today, they're so bred into this feudal type of thinking, this colonized type of thinking where they think just because you're senior, you have total rights over everybody that's junior. And that's not true. That's not true. Especially in a whānau, you almost have no rights. Okay? You might be top senior or within a Tahumaakaakanuimatua whānau, the only tuakana is the top. And that gives them some rights, see? That gives them some rights. But everyone else has rights too. Be they teina or not, they still have rights. And in most cases, they can still say no to most things within a whānau, see? Even though tuakana being who they are. See? Why is that in Tahumaakaakanuimatua? Because in Tahumaakaakanuimatua, to be a tuakana, you have to be lineage tuakana and age tuakana. It's mostly lineage, but in some cases, like in a whānau, age can be, pakahitanga can also be the line of tuakana within a whānau. And that's what you get in Tahumaakaakanuimatua whānau. The eldest in all the whānau is the tuakana. Okay, that doesn't mean to say no one else has got rights. That's not true, And so if some people are thinking that Moai has overall power over us, be we Moai or not, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We are still iwi. They have to recognise our mana. Even though we're teina, we've still got mana. See? And because we're an iwi, we're of the greatest extent. We're one of the 7 iwi of the country. Aye. Doesn't matter how senior they are, they need to consider first tō mātou mana. And also tō mātou mana tapu. We've also got mana tapu in the land. And to a huge claim of rights and interests in the land as well. So there's nothing that more I can do about that. And so what I want to, where I want to finish off is on this part here. And that is that the population of Moai, one of the questions I got was, does that change? Even though we're mostly Moai, most of our people of the 7 iwi, I said yes, but does that change? And to what degree? I say, and I said to them, and you can tell, just with the structures and the systemial issues, matters that I raised and talked about there, the little complexities in there that we need to understand. Yes, that does pose difficulties for Moai. If Moai is at any time trying to think of having us a part of their population, most direct, that cannot happen. A, because we're iwi. B, because of our mana tapu. C, because of our taiopuru ariki mataura. D, because of Tutura te matua, and E, because of TeAwa. See, that's 2 other entities before ours that we come through, that we have to consider first before considering Moai. Even though we're Moai, we are these different entities and we've gone in different directions from Moai. We started off Moai, but we grew into Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Okay? So the population of Moai, we don't know. We don't know that population, but we consider that that would be quite a lot smaller, actually. I was thinking that it was quite a lot more, but that was because our people were counting in all of the other iwi that come from Moai. No, and that's not right. Not lawfully. Lawfully, they're not a legal part of Moai. They're actually a part of their iwi. So they can only count into their population what is part of their iwi. Okay? And so, yeah. E tatauma. Ko ia nana hoki, and I guess I'm thinking a lot more around Moai, Hapu and Waikato, and also a lot more of those issues around te wakaminenga, because I and those members of our rūnanga that will come along with me to te wakaminenga, or the Confederation of Chiefs. I'm thinking a lot more around there because I can now do a lot more work in there now that I've got time to be able to a lot more of our work within te wakaminenga. And so that's how that goes, yeah. Even though we're Moai, we've got our own iwi. And that's where the mana tapu lies. That's where the mana lies. And of course, that's where the authority is over the iwi. Okay, he tatauma. All our prayers to all of the sick, all of the medically challenged, all of our prayers out there for the poor, the destitute, all of our prayers out there for the children, and all the difficulties they're facing in the day and age, the problem areas through school. You know, we hear lots about our church, how they serve up lots of good food for lunches, for breakfasts even, with local schools. It's awesome. And I just pray that a lot more gets put into those areas, especially child poverty. Tahumaakaakanuimatua has had a lot, Lord. Mighty Father, mighty Lord Jesus, a lot of work to do within those areas of child poverty. And of course, all of our medically challenged, etc. Lots of different people come to mind there. And we ask of you, Lord Jesus, to bring them through strongly, those challenges, and bring them through really well and ready to be getting even better and better and better as time goes on. Mighty Father, and let all of the conditions and problem areas for all these people within those problem areas having to live through all that in this day and age. And keep us safe, keep us at peace, keep us well, keep us strong from throughout the night. Mighty Lord Jesus, I pray in your holy and faithful name. Amen. Ka piti hono ka tātai hono ko rātau mā tērā te mate kia rātau. Ka piti hono ka tātai hono ko rātau, ko tātau tonu hoki mai anō rā hoki tēnā kato anō, ko tātou mā tonu koa, kai te mihi atu. Kai te mihi atu. Koina nā no hoki tēnā katoa ko ngā kōrero kato anō. Ia tātou i roto i te kaupapa nunui nei. Te WhakataungaKereeme kia Tahumaakaakanuimatua ki te 2023. Kai te mihi atu, tēnā rā tātou. Tēnā rā tātou. Hoki hoki tonu mea nō rā. Ki roto ki te o tērā wiki ki te wā. Hoki hoki tonu mai anō. Me ahau. Me ngā kōrero. Pita katoa. Ki tō tātou nā kaupapa nunui kēnei. Mauri ora. Kahuri.